If you want to achieve optimum realism in your portraits, a cast shadow is usually your best option. To start this process, we need to create a copy of the subject. The easiest way to do this is to create a selection around the subject by pressing and holding the Control key and clicking on the subject's layer. But you can also use the magic wand tool and inverse the selection as we did earlier. Now we need to create a new layer by clicking on the New Layer button in the Layers palette. This will be our shadow, so we need to fill this selection. We go to Edit, Fill. To bring up the Fill dialog box, click on the drop-down menu and choose Black, then click OK. At this point you should only be left with the silhouette of your subject. This is because your shadow layer is above your subject layer. To change the order of the layers, simply place your cursor over one of the layers, left-click, and hold to drag it down or up as needed. I'm going to be changing the properties of this shadow, and the subject may get in the way, so I will click on the eye icon here, and the subject layer disappears from view. It's still there, it's just invisible. If you want to see it a little for reference, you can adjust the opacity down and then bring it up when you're finished. I want to use the transform function on this shadow, so I need to create a selection around it. Control and click on the layer, then go to Edit, Transform, Skew. In Elements versions, it's under Image, Transform, Skew. As I noted before, the light is coming from the left, so we are going to need to pull this shadow far to the right. To soften the shadow, go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and choose the appropriate pixel blur. Even after blurring, the shadow still may be a bit overstated, so you may want to reduce the opacity. And don't forget to bring back up the opacity on your subject layer. Now, if there were no wall, we would be finished, but this backdrop has a floor and a wall, so we need to back up and change the procedures just a bit. If you want the shadow to be cast up onto the background, you can first move the shadow over, then skew the portion of the bottom back over to the subject. You may need to lighten parts of the shadow with an eraser tool or fill in portions with the brush tool. This technique may take a little practice to perfect, but once learned, it becomes intuitive and is quite useful for many applications. So that's it. That's how to cut and paste and fine-tune a subject onto a background. The process may seem somewhat daunting at this point, but once learned and perfected, the whole process should take no more than 5 minutes from beginning to end.